Hello, and welcome to the Bitter BM podcast. I'm Bitter BM, aka Felicia, and today I'm going to be speaking on my mother, how I met her, and as Mariah references J-Lo, I don't really know her. I never really knew her prior to meeting her, or at least I had no memories of her. So I'm gonna start from the beginning. I was living my happy-go-lucky life back in the Caribbean, playing in dirt like most underprivileged, less fortunate kids in the third world do, because what else is there to do other than use your imagination, make toys out of raw material, boxes, fruits, stuff like that. Playing marbles, I remember those things, and doing a lot of homework. I liked school a lot when I was younger, so I used to spend my time coloring, learning how to spell, learning how to read. That was my thing. So anywho, word came around that my brother and I were going to foreign. So foreign is what Caribbean people in the past, I don't know if they still call it foreign. They probably just call the countries by their names now. So foreign was used to reference the United States, England, or Canada, which is basically abroad. So word came around that my brother and I were going to foreign, aka going abroad, to live with our mother. And I don't know how I felt, but I do remember my grandmother taking us on so many trips to town, which is the bigger city. We were from the country where I'm from, taking us to town to take pictures and do all this medical type of stuff. And she told me like the stories when I went to visit her about a year ago. I remember us doing a lot of that and a lot of traveling, and which when I was younger, I had motion sickness, and she would always hide the motion sickness pills in my ice cream. She would buy me ice cream and then put the pill in the ice cream, and I would always find it. Anywho, I digress. So word came around that we were going to foreign. Now, I don't know how long this process took or when they started to like do the paperwork for us to leave. But I remember, I slowly started to tell like my little friends. I had two older brothers, or I think they're older than me. To be honest, I feel like we're Irish twins, my dad's sons and I. Either two of us are the same age and one is right behind, or something of the sort. So I remember I told my brothers, told my little friends, my very best friend. Turns out I had a fight with her from what I could remember, and I never told her anything. The last I remember seeing her, I was going home and I just passed her. And needless to say, I've been standing on business since I was about 6-7 years old. Like, I don't play when it comes to that. I don't even remember what she did to me, to be honest. But now that I'm older, I wish I would have maintained that friendship, or my mom would have helped me maintain that friendship. But anywho, I digress again. I gotta give y'all the little tidbits because then it'll all make sense. So I can remember the day of, my grandmother took us to the airport, and at the time in the airport that we traveled out of, they had a gallery. And I remember it was time for us to walk up the stairs on the plane. My brother walked up, he turned around and waved because my grandma was watching us. You could see people going on the plane and you could wave goodbye to them. And I never turned around. To wave. And I thought about this over my life. And to be honest, I think it was because I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave my grandma. That was all I knew. I didn't know my mom. She immigrated when I was 3 and my brother was less than 1 year old. So I had no memories of her. All my memories were with my grandmother, with my aunts and uncles, with my dad, with my brothers, with my cousins. So basically to say I was upset. I wasn't happy about that. But as years went on, I did regret not saying goodbye to my grandmother because it probably would have meant a lot more to me and her had I done that. But I was a kid. I wasn't going to do it. I was standing on business once again. So anywho, apparently I fell asleep on the flight and I woke up with vomit all over my dress and all over my brother. We were right beside each other. We flew on the plane by ourselves. Back in the days, the flight attendants used to take very good care of the kids traveling on their own. So I woke up, there was vomit on both of us. I vomited on him. a story and incident he remembers quite well. And we met our mother at the airport with my uncle. I don't remember if my grandfather was there, and so it began my life in a new country. I suppose, and I'm only guessing because there's a lot in my life that I have compartmentalized, because obviously whatever happened in the past is so traumatic to me. I just refuse to think about it. But hopefully one day it'll come out in therapy. So I suppose she was happy. I'm not going to say I suppose. I know she was happy to see us. I remember her hugging us. I remember going to the apartment building where she lived, which is where I grew up until I left her house. And I remember going out on the balcony and thinking, oh my God, this is so high. She lived on one of the high floors, like the 17th floor of her apartment building. And I went out on the balcony, and I don't know if that's where I developed my fear of heights, but after that I never liked heights after that, from what I can remember. I used to climb trees. Even though they weren't that high, I still used to climb them. And after that, I don't like heights. I don't like roller coasters. I don't even like going on planes, much less. Met her. Don't remember how life was after that. And at some point came the abuse. Like, me and my brother started to get whoopings because we were bad and we weren't listening. Now, mind you, my grandmother never hit us. My brother must have got whooped by his dad once, because apparently the story is that he hit me and everyone was so upset that they told his dad. His dad came and beat his butt. But other than that, we never got whoopings. My dad never whooped me. My aunts, uncles, nobody. So this was all new to me. I'm like, what kind of life is this? Send me back home, because this ain't it. So that continued on and on and on for years. And as a child, I didn't understand why it happened. But what I did know is that, and I feel terrible about this, but I'm going to be honest. Whenever she would whoop us, I would take it out on her youngest son, which is my youngest brother on my mom's side. I would beat him up, unfortunately. And that was like my only outlet. I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't call anybody. Nobody had phones. Like, people were sending telegrams and letters back then, right? So that's what I did. That went on for years and years and years, until eventually the government took us one night. The story is, and I don't know how true this is, that somebody told that my mom left us alone, and they called the police and Children's Aid, and we spent 2 weeks in Children's Aid. And I'll tell you when it was, and I'll always remember, because it was the night Princess Diana died in 1997, 2 weeks before I was supposed to start the 7th grade. So every time Princess Diana's anniversary comes around, I always remember what happened to us around that time. All three of us, we were gone. Anywho, my mom got us back shortly after, like I said, 2 weeks. After that, the whooping stopped, because she was like, okay, now she knows that she can't whoop us anymore. But then the verbal abuse started. My mom used to tell me some terrible things when I was growing up. Basically, she never affirmed me. She ruined my confidence, which would explain why I ended up being a teen mother. I'm just now in like adulthood teaching myself how to be confident. I know I'm not ugly. I know I'm not this. I know I'm not that. But that mental abuse that I experienced as a child definitely took a toll on me for the longest time. And I think that is why certain things happened to me growing up as a teenager. We'll get into it. But anywho, verbal abuse started. She used to tell me I wasn't going to grow up to be anything. My looks aren't going to get me anywhere. I don't know how to do this. She's not going to come to my house because of this. Because blah, 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 blah. The worst part of it is, with all the insults that came, she wasn't teaching me how to combat that. So she wasn't teaching me how to cook. She wasn't teaching me how to clean. She didn't teach me how to do my laundry. She didn't teach me a lot of things. And if she did, she didn't do a good enough job for me to remember to actually speak on it today. Everything I learned because of my oldest daughter. I had to learn these things because I had somebody to take care of. So I needed to know how to wash her clothes. I needed to know how to make food for her to eat. I needed to learn all of these things. Like, I would read books. At the time, there was the internet, go on the internet, like do things. And I still do this. I love to learn. I'm just somebody that loves to soak up information and then apply what I learned to my life. So that's how I learned a lot of things when it comes to being a mother and growing up. So that was me basically meeting my mother. Obviously, based on everything I'm saying, I don't have the fondest memories growing up with my mother. It was 8 very short years, and in that time, I didn't like living with her. I thought I had a better life. I thought I had a better life being poor and playing in the dirt back home than being up here with my mother. Now imagine me saying that, because supposedly this was supposed to be the best for me, but in my opinion, it wasn't the best for me. And nobody asked me if I wanted to leave. And I'm gonna be honest, I've always felt deep down like if I had stayed back home, I would have a closer connection to my relatives there. Because after moving with my brother, it's like all our relationships got disconnected to all of our family members that knew us. So I don't want to make it seem like I'm telling the story of how I met my mom and how I experienced abuse living with her. I don't want to demonize her for that. I am grateful for the fact that she did bring me and my brother up to give us a better opportunity. But then at the time, I didn't think she knew how to manage being a single mother of 3 kids with no help from the fathers at the time. And I do sympathize with the fact that she struggled to raise us, and in her eyes, she may have done the best that she could have done at the time. But what I do want to say is, we grew up poor, okay? My siblings and I grew up poor. And this is just my personal opinion as a parent that had to raise kids poor myself and had to dig ourselves out of poverty on my own. I do want to say this. If you are not able to do everything for your child financially, you have to shower them emotionally with everything they're going to need to build their confidence, build their resilience, and just build them as an overall person that is going to be able to survive in the future and not be taken advantage that people who are going to see their lack of certain skills and their lack of confidence as weaknesses and prey on them. Now, I never always had money. I had to be on social assistance for many years until I just decided that I don't want to do this no more. Y'all not paying me enough to stay at home. So I went out and got a job, and I've been working ever since. And it was the best decision I ever made, because once I got into working, I was able to maintain work, maintain income, and my kids have been able to see me improve my life, their life, our overall situation over the years. Now, I'm not saying my mom never tried. I remember her going to school. She is a college graduate. She did graduate college in her 30s, I believe. She is a college graduate, and she works in a professional field. But in my opinion, not enough effort was there to support all 3 of us actually emotionally when we were growing up. And I think that is the downfall of the relationship we have with our mother right now. Like, none of us are close with her. I believe my youngest brother might be more inclined to communicate with her just because they've always had that closer bond from he was younger. We got remnants of whatever was left over, my brother and I, and that wasn't much. It wasn't enough to solidify and maintain a good relationship with her through our adult years. My other brother, her first son, is actually estranged from her completely, and I understand why. I think the fact that she abused him as much as she did, and she did more severe things to him than she did to me, that's enough. I understand. I don't vilify him for cutting her off at all. He still recognized that she's his mother, but he doesn't want that relationship. And my mother has never been an emotional person. She doesn't show emotion. She's very cold, something I used to be. And I have a little bit of that, but I've learned to soften myself up and just be more open to having emotions and you know, being real with people rather than closed off all the time. My mother didn't do enough to maintain the relationships we had, uncles, aunts, grandma, cousins, where my brother and I were basically estranged from everyone. They know us by name. Some people we don't even remember. And I've always felt deep down that that's a part of me, my childhood, my development, that was so important, and I feel robbed of that. You know, I still talk to my grandmother here and there. I speak to my dad here and there. I speak to my siblings here and there. But I definitely yearn for a closer relationship, always yearned for a closer relationship. But now that I'm old, it's so hard to try to take on that job of developing that closeness. You know, I'm a little bit lacking. I'm socially awkward, to be honest. I'm socially awkward. And that's because I was so shy growing up, never went outside, never socialized. And so I see how these things affect me as an adult. And all I'm saying is that it's very important for you to help your children maintain relationships they have with people that are important to them and people who think they are important, because this definitely helps in their development. And it helps develop their relational skills, how to communicate, how to be socially responsible, how to not be socially awkward, how to get out of shyness, you know, all the things that are important that are going to set them up in the future.